MTG is one of the last connections that the Republican Party has to the average American. Now you have barely any connection left. There's barely any connection from the average American to the Republican Party now. They don't recognize it. They don't resonate with it. They're disinterested. They're disenfranchised. And now that Marjorie Taylor Greene is out, you've just lost one of the last threads of connection you have to the average American. And then it's like, what do you have left? Maybe Rand Paul, Thomas Massie. That's who they're trying to get rid of now. What is the Republican Party thinking? What are they going to do? And they think that they can just run on, oh, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a liberal. I'm not a socialist. That doesn't work anymore. You have to deliver. You don't just get to say, oh, I'm against socialists. Oh, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a liberal. You have to deliver results. What will the Republican Party do? If AIPAC is successful in removing Rand Paul and Thomas Massie, that will be the end of the Republican Party. It'll be dead. You will never win another election. People will not show up to vote for you. They won't even recognize the party. They'll have no connection to it whatsoever. And you'll usher in 4 years of Democrat control, maybe 6. Maybe 6 even. So it's just like, why? Why do you do this? For what? A foreign policy that people don't like? For what? A foreign country that's at war with 9 countries, bombing 9 countries, just killed 100,000 people? What are you doing this for? For the donor class? So you can still get donor money running losing elections? What is the purpose of the Republican Party? If you let AIPAC oust Thomas Massie, if you let AIPAC oust Rand Paul, it's over. There is no Republican Party anymore. There's just a Republican donor class and a bunch of losing politicians. It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. The Republican Party has no interest in their identity crisis right now. And, they could have fixed this. And you could argue maybe that Kevin McCarthy got a bad rap. I'm okay. I'm okay if people want to stick up for Kevin McCarthy after all this and say he got a bad rap. And they can say, well, maybe Matt Gaetz shouldn't have done it. I'll disagree with that. And here's why. Matt Gaetz understood something, and the Freedom Caucus understood something at that time that the Republican Party still doesn't understand. It's that you have an identity crisis. And you've kind of been able to live off of the aura and the popularity of Donald Trump for the last 6-8 years. So the Republican Party lacking in identity, lacking any true spine, it's been able to kind of live off of the Trump aura for the last 6 years. But see, Matt Gaetz and the Freedom Caucus understood that they had an identity crisis and that they needed somebody to be Speaker of the House that could better represent the Republican identity. Remember, what was it that Matt Gaetz was saying? What was it that Lauren Boebert was saying? What was it that the Freedom Caucus was saying? They were saying Kevin McCarthy represents the donor class. We need somebody that represents the people. And that was it. That's the identity crisis. Do you think who relates to Mike Johnson? What Republican voter sees Mike Johnson up there and says, wow, he reminds me of me? What young American out there that wants to save this country? What patriotic American out there that wants to vote Republican, that wants to support Donald Trump? What one of them stands up there and says, wow, Mike Johnson, I resonate with that. He represents me. Nobody. See, Matt Gaetz understood that. And even if Kevin McCarthy wasn't the problem, even if Kevin McCarthy wasn't the worst of them, it's like, hey, the Republicans have an opportunity to change their identity right now. And we can put in a speaker that represents the average American voter, that represents where the dissident right is at right now, a Marjorie Taylor Greene, a Matt Gaetz. Hell, even a Thomas Massie. Hell, a Tim Burchett, if you wanted to be maybe less controversial. Tim Burchett represents where the average American is at more than a Mike Johnson. So they understood. They said, hey, we have an identity crisis. Kevin McCarthy ain't fixing it. We got to have somebody else in there as speaker, but now here you are. So what are you going to do? You can't live off of Trump forever. There will be no connection with the Republican Party to the average American if you let AIPAC unseat Thomas Massie and Rand Paul, and you will let the Democrats take power for 4, maybe 6 years if you do that. But hey, I guess the Republican Party doesn't care. As long as the donor class is happy, which they get the results they want no matter who's in power, by the way, in case you haven't noticed, the foreign policy doesn't change. The assault on the Constitution, the trampling of our rights, the collapse of our civilization, our economy, none of that changes no matter who's in power. So the donor class doesn't care who wins and who loses. They fund both sides. They get what they want no matter what. But if you don't understand, as Kevin McCarthy said, that Marjorie Taylor Greene is the canary in the coal mine, and that you are slowly slipping from the Republican Party having any attachment, any recognition, any resonation with the American voter, then you're about to hand the Democrats 6 years of power. But of course, AIPAC doesn't care. It's more important for AIPAC to remove any vote in Congress that might stop the funding to a foreign country in a foreign war. They don't care who wins. They own both sides of the aisle. So what a shame. What a shame that the Republican Party is willing to throw it all away. Oh, we're the patriots. We're the Republicans. They're willing to throw it all away, folks. They're willing to throw it all away for the donor class. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is trying to warn them. Even Kevin McCarthy trying to warn them. Here's what Marjorie Taylor Greene said this morning. She says, only 20% of Americans are on X. And this is where the political industrial complex controls a hive mind with hyper-partisan politics. It's toxic, hateful, and divisive. Many accounts are paid and many are foreign, and they post and comment all day with targeted talking points in order to sway your opinion. However, it's not real life. Real life exists without a phone, tablet, or computer. Real life is tangible, involves relationships with people, productive work, and all of the fun, amazing adventures the beautiful world has to offer. Real life among common Americans is what holds this country up and where the solutions for our future reside. Most of all, it's where happiness is. Well, I like that little close. It is a lot happier out there when you get out of the political world. But, you know, it sounds like what Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying here is kind of a different version of what I've been saying, which is, do you people have any normal social life at all? Like, that's what I'm saying, folks. It's like the Republican Party has absolutely no connection to the average American anymore.